Thank you for joining us and welcome to the inaugural California Caregiver Resource Center event. We are so grateful to you and all family caregivers for all that you do, and we look forward to sharing valuable information with you over the course of the next 2 hours. This event is in celebration of National Family Caregiver Month, and today you'll be hearing from executive directors and team members from all our Caregiver Resource Centers. The California Caregiver Resource Centers, often referred to as CRCs, are a network of 11 nonprofits. Together we serve family caregivers in every county in California. What do we mean by family caregivers? Caregiver is a term used to broadly describe a relative or close friend that provides unpaid or informal assistance to someone like a parent or a spouse with a debilitating condition. In other words, you are a caregiver if you regularly provide tangible and/or emotional help to another person and feel responsible for their well-being. There are over 4.5 million caregivers in California at various stages in their caregiving journey, and we are here to support you. Since the 1980s, the CRCs have provided a variety of services, including family consultations, support groups, educational classes, respite care, and legal and financial consultation. Throughout the event, you'll be hearing about these resources and more from CRC team members. Remember, there is support wherever you are in California. To learn more about the CRC nearest you, visit caregivercalifornia.org. Let's take a look at the website. From the homepage, you'll click on Find Your Local Center. Once there, you can select your county from a drop-down menu or type in your zip code. Since we are here in San Diego today, we'll select San Diego. That will bring up the information for the CRC nearest your location, which for San Diegans is Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Then you'll see our website, phone number, and address. Click on Visit Website to learn more about your local CRC. Now let's get started with our first segment, exploring self-identifying as a caregiver. We're excited to welcome author Elaine Sanchez, who shares her personal stories and insights on how to know if you are a caregiver.
On October 30th, 1993, my father experienced a devastating stroke. This was at a time when there were very few services for seniors, and if there were any services for caregivers, we certainly were not aware of them. Over the course of the next 6.5 years, my mother had to develop some unique coping strategies to help her manage her isolation, her loneliness, and the emotional stress of caring for a man who was very different from the husband that she had known and loved for the last 51 years. And one of the things that she did on a regular basis was disengage her emotional monitor, go to her computer, and write letters to me in which she expressed everything that was happening and exactly how she felt about it. So as I was editing her letters into the book, and I started on this project in 2004, there was still some question as to whether caregiving was one word, 2 words, or whether it was hyphenated. So you can see we have come a long way since, but there are still a lot of people who are helping their parents or taking care of their husband who have not identified themselves as a caregiver. So how do you know if you're a caregiver? Well, I'm going to share one short story from my book, one of my mother's letters, and see if this resonates with you. This is what Madeline had to say. I can't think of anything that's all that exciting or invigorating about getting up in the morning and fixing breakfast and doing the dishes and then starting a load of laundry and doing housework and helping your father and then going back and fixing lunch and doing the dishes and starting more laundry and doing more housework and helping your father. And an exciting day for me might consist of possibly having an interesting telephone conversation or running into somebody I know in the grocery store or on the street. And for this I should take vitamins. I should eat right and exercise so I can prolong this wonderful life experience? No, give me a break. No, my joy in life comes from learning and growing mentally and spiritually. And the thing that I've discovered about having my own peace and happiness from within is that I can stay more or less detached emotionally and still do what has to be done to give other people a reasonable amount of happiness. Well, if Madeline's description of an exciting day resonates with you, I hope you will turn to caregiver resource centers for help. Nothing will ever make this journey easy through caregiving, but they have the knowledge and the resources to help you manage the physical and emotional stress of caring for those who can no longer care for themselves.
What I find so inspiring about Elaine's story is her ability to find the lightness and levity in the experience of being a caregiver. There are so many ways that people provide care and endless scenarios in which you may find yourself in. To help us define what it is to be a caregiver, Jessica Melchor from Passages CRC is here.
Thank you, Martha. Hi, everyone. It's always good to recognize if you're a caregiver, as it'll help you through the journey to figure out what type of resources you may need. So we have a few questions to review with you that will help you identify as a caregiver. Click on the link below in the comments, or you can type the link POLLEV.com/CACRC934 to join us in our live poll. Here are the questions for you to consider. Do you assist a loved one with grocery shopping and finances? Number 2, does your loved one call you nearly every day with a question or problem? Number 3, have you neglected time with family and friends to help the loved one you are caring for? Remember, click on the link in the description below, or you can type it in, POLLEV.com/CACRC934 to share your responses. I think we're getting some in here. There are so many other ways to explain your role as a caregiver. These are just a few questions that we wanted to share. And again, as a reminder, those questions are: 1, do you assist a loved one with grocery shopping and finances? Does your loved one call you nearly every day with a question or problem? Number 3, have you neglected time with family and friends to help the loved one you are caring for? Let's look at some of the results here. So it looks like for the second question, does your loved one call you nearly every day with questions? We got a few of you. It's actually 60% yes. Your responses are still coming in. So 67% yes. Number 3, do you assist a loved, or number 1, sorry about that. Do you assist a loved one with grocery shopping and finances? So 100% replied yes to that question. These are great. Thank you for responding to the live poll here. Number 3, have you neglected time with family and friends to help the loved one you are caring for? 90% of you responded yes. We have a few that responded no, 10% of you. Yeah, it's when you look at the type of questions or the type of tasks you're doing for your loved one, at the time, it's hard to identify, that you're actually doing extra for your loved one. Thank you for participating in our live poll, and it's great to see that we have so many people exploring the role as caregivers here with us today. Thank you.
We know that anyone may become a caregiver, sometimes unexpectedly. Knowing that you are a caregiver is the first step to getting valuable resources that are available to you. Caregiving shows all kinds of ways. To hear more about caregiving in different cultures and communities, we had a discussion with family consultants who work directly with family care at each CRC. This discussion includes family consultants from Del Oro, Orange County, Redwood, and Los Angeles CRCs. Hear what they have to say.
Hi, and welcome to today's panel. We'll be exploring some diversity in the caregivers who exist across the California CRC system. I'd like to start by asking our first panelist, Pauline, a little bit about some of the communities that her CRC serves. Pauline?
Hi, my name is Pauline Lay, and I am a family consultant with the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County. Our Vietnamese program for family caregivers started in 1997, and it was the first Vietnamese family caregiver program in California. We have 3 bilingual Vietnamese staff available to help family members with language barrier and help them with how to navigate the system.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pauline. I'm going to turn it over to Alejandra.
Yeah, hi, my name is Alejandra Turpin, and I am from the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County. Me and Pauline work together. Definitely we serve our communities, anything from English-speaking Vietnamese, and I work with the Spanish-speaking communities.
I see we have a lot of linguistic diversity in our CRCs. Erin, could you tell us a little bit about the communities you serve?
Yeah, hi, I'm Erin, and I'm a family consultant with Redwood Caregiver Resource Center. We serve 7 counties in Northern California, and many of our caregivers live in rural, even frontier communities. And we also serve a lot of caregivers from tribal communities as well.
Yvonne, can you tell us a little bit more about your CRC communities?
Yes, I'm Yvonne Kuo. I'm a family consultant with the LA Caregiver Resource Center in Los Angeles County. We service family caregivers that are also Chinese American, and some are monolingual, some are bilingual, or second generation, first generation family caregivers.
And last but certainly not least, Krystal.
Yes, so my name's Krystal. I'm with Inland Caregiver Resource Center. We service 4 counties, which is Riverside, San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono. We have such a diverse community of caregivers, anything from the LGBTQ community to low income, English as their second language. We do have a great impact with our Hispanic community, but I mean, our African American and Asian American is pretty good, or we have a wide variety of caregivers.
Wonderful. And I wanted to start with Alejandra and your communities. Can you tell us, do caregivers typically identify or call themselves caregivers? And how does that role look within the different communities you serve?
So one of the important things to notice is because the Caregiver Resource Center, we serve all Orange County. So across Orange County, we have anything from low income to high, from Asian, Caucasian to Hispanic. Specific across the culture or ethnicity, it is not seen as the caregiver. Specifically to the Hispanic community, they feel more like I'm not a caregiver. I'm the family member that needs to care for this person, and it's a part of being a family. It's like an obligation. So not all of them, I will say, identify as a caregiver. In other ethnicities or groups that we work with, I think it's the same. They don't see it until some time has passed.
Okay. And as a follow-up to that, do you what measures as a CRC do you take to help these caregivers who first identify really just as family members doing their duty? How do you help them identify as a caregiver who may be in need of services?
Yeah, so when they come to us, obviously there's a big need. So we try to create a rapport with them, some trust, and then from there educate them in everything that they need for providing care to their loved ones. So anything from just having that conversation to listening to them, and also to looking at the resources that they have. And after that journey begins, then they start, feeling a little bit more, maybe identified a little bit more as a caregiver, but it has to do a little bit with the education that we do prior. Support groups that we offered definitely help them identify as they are listening to other people's challenges that they're going through the same. So they're all identifying. Support groups are a great way for them to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And Erin, I want to bounce over to you. You mentioned that Redwood specifically caters to some of the rural communities in California, and I'm curious what challenges are rural caregivers experiencing, especially during the COVID-19 epidemic?
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind when I think about challenges for any access to healthcare in our communities rurally is isolation. So, a lot of our caregivers are choosing to be isolated or choosing to live in an area that is more isolated, but it definitely causes some challenges when trying to access services, and there's just a lack of resources. Sometimes the resources are farther away, and so people are really trying to look to those close relationships, neighbors, resources, and people within their communities to try to find that support. But definitely just a lack of resources and being far from services is one of those one of our biggest challenges.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Krystal, I'm going to bounce over to you. You seem to have quite an array of different languages represented within the communities you serve, and I'm curious if that has presented any unique challenges as well.
It has. There are a couple languages that we service. We have a lot that are English is their second language. So when we do educational classes, we try to be sensitive and competent in what their understanding is and what they really want from us. So it has been a challenge. We try to have a variety of staff members with different languages, but it's sometimes it is a challenge. But we do try, and then of course working with the other CRCs if there's a language that we can't offer, we don't have that resource. It's great now that we can offer another resource center with more variety of languages.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yvonne, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about how your CRC has been able to support communities, what specific services you provide. We've already sort of touched on how education is a really important component, a really important service that we offer, but what are some other services that you have offered to provide support to your caregivers?
For the caregivers, especially for the Chinese community, is actually first building the trust as individual relationship, doing the assessment and providing that individual consultation for them to actually feel comfortable enough to actually be able to express what's going on, how can we help them, and what are some of the family dynamics, how the family unit works. It's building that trust, and then also trying to let them know that there are support groups, there's education out there that they can actually reach out for within our LA Caregiver Resource Centers, so that they can know that they're not alone in this journey of family caregiving. And a lot has to do with building that trust within that one-on-one, being the family consultant, and then growing from it.
Thank you for that. And Pauline, I want to turn to you. Do you find that it's important to establish that trust with your caregivers as well before you provide services?
Yes, in addition to trust, rapport, build a rapport with the caregiver to so they can comfortable to share and call us when they need help. Sometimes it takes support group and education. Sometimes they seem to listen more with the peer in the support group. Let's say I have a caregiver who have diagnosis. I would say the PHQ-9 score is really high, and they just consider depressed, but try to refer them to counseling, try to get support for them. They not listening. They don't follow up very well. But when another family member in the support group say that how wonderful the counseling program we have help them, and they seem to be open to get help. I think the peer support is very, very important to them. That's why we have 2 support groups right now for Vietnamese family caregiver in Orange County, and to help them with overcome the language barrier, advocacy, and connect them with resources would be really helpful.
That's wonderful. What I'm hearing from a lot of you is that connection is extremely important, especially among peers, and education provides that inroad to more services within the CRC. And those are kind of our frontline measures for supporting caregivers, diverse caregivers in our communities. And to Erin's point about isolation, it's been my observation that isolation has become an even bigger problem among caregivers because of COVID-19. And so it makes a lot of sense that providing support within a support group among peers and through education would be important for making that first step into other services at the CRC. I want to ask Krystal, if you would, can you tell us what additional information you would share with the different communities, the vast array of communities in your service territory?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of already touched on it. I think maybe I'm a little biased because I'm the education coordinator, but I think any education resources it's so vital for the caregiving journey. You know, any resource that's going to provide them education and some sort of just preparedness for the whole journey. It's a hard journey, so we want them to be as prepared as possible. And if that means that that educational resource is something that, you know, we have to go to outside resources or outside agencies, then also, you know, we want to provide as much additional information to these communities as possible. And if that's tailoring it to each community, you know, then we urge our caregivers, we tell them, ask for it, ask for the help, let us know what you need, and we'll do our best to try to get that resource.
Wonderful. Now, my last question, I do want to open it up again to the entire group. And so we'll just kind of run down the line, but how can caregivers, prospective caregivers, connect with your resources? Pauline, we'll start with you.
Normally they will call us over the phone. Sometimes they have access to our email. They email us with a little summary of what's going on with with the family. And we follow up with a phone call to do little assessment to see how can we serve them and where they are and how can we help them with the caregiving situation they have. So that's how we start with the caregiver.
Okay. Thank you. Erin, I'll bounce over to you. How can people connect with resources at Redwood?
Yeah, I think, again, because of our kind of rural and frontier communities, people don't often look to necessarily like the internet or social media or things like that. And so it's kind of more of a grassroots feel of, finding services within your community. And so, just calling the first things that come to people's minds are, their local community center or their local health clinic. And definitely in tribal communities as well, looking to those clinics that are already in their communities. So the Area 1 Agency on Aging, the Senior Center, we have developed some really good kind of cross-referral relationships with community organizations. So if they start with the Senior Center, they'll get to us eventually because of those referrals. So I think calling those, whatever community organization that they're connected to already, is a good way to kind of find the connection to our Caregiver Resource Center as well. And just letting people know, I just want to let people know we offer a variety of services. So if your support groups aren't your thing, we can do one-on-one services. We're really trying to make, establish our presence within the communities and cater, our services to what they're needing. So.
Wonderful. I understand too that respite and counseling are very important services within the CRCs. They certainly are at Del Oro. And if a community member wanted to access those resources, Yvonne, how do they tend to get in touch with your agency?
We actually have intake, but as far as like the community within the Chinese community, we do have relationships with other social service community senior centers, community health centers, and medical health centers that do connect with me and my coworkers regarding like referrals. And a lot of times within the Chinese community, I would say it's word of mouth between family caregivers too. Well, once someone finds that your service is helpful, then they would actually let others know that maybe need of support, or they see and identify that perhaps they need additional support.
Wonderful. So it sounds like we have a wide variety of ways to connect with the CRC system. It's not just finding you on the internet, though, as I understand it, all of our CRCs do have websites. A lot of us are using social media, but word of mouth and community centers are also a really important, as you said, Erin, grassroots means to connect as well. Alejandra, before we end, did you want to add anything? Are there any other ways to connect?
Well, just to add to everything that they say, obviously the phone, our website, but also like connecting with the community as a whole, our partners, other agencies, the same agencies that we refer to, they know about us and then they send, they talk about us. So that's how another way that people connect.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for your time today. And I am going to turn it back over to our moderator for today's summit.
What an amazing conversation about caregiving. Our CRCs have heard from every community in California, and we are proud to be able to support family caregivers wherever they are in their caregiving journey. A question that our caregivers often ask is, can I get paid to be a caregiver? For more information on this important question, let's turn to Christina Irving from Family Caregiver Alliance, home to the Bay Area CRC.
Great. Thank you, Martha. Happy to be joining with everyone today. And I'm going to talk about some of the potential programs that you as a caregiver might be eligible for if you're looking to get paid for the care that you're already providing. So as we get started, let's look at the next slide. One of the most common programs that caregivers are eligible for is one called in-home supportive services. And this pays for ongoing in-home care for the person that you are caring for. To be eligible, that person would need to be receiving Medi-Cal, and that obviously has its own eligibility requirements, and it can be a little bit complicated, so I really encourage you to reach out to your local caregiver resource center and they can help you understand whether this might be an eligible service for you. So the person needs to be receiving Medi-Cal. They need to be living at home, whether it's your home or their home, but just not in a care facility, and the healthcare certification form. So this is something that their doctor is going to fill out and basically certify that this person does need a certain amount of care. So to apply, you would contact your local in-home support service office, and then the social worker is going to conduct an in-home assessment. And this is how they determine how much help the person needs each month. And so they will determine the number of hours. For somebody who is considered non-severely impaired, the maximum number of hours that they can get is 195 hours a month. And for somebody considered severely impaired, the maximum number of hours is 283 hours a month. So you'll see it doesn't provide 24-hour care. The very maximum, it's about 8 to 9 hours a day. So it won't cover all the care that you might be providing as a caregiver, but it might be able to provide some. So if they get eligible for in-home support service, then how do you get paid by in-home support service? So let's go to the next slide. And the first step that you'll do is you will need to register as an independent provider. So you'll complete an enrollment form with the county public authority. So this is a program connected to in-home support services. You will need to be fingerprinted and go through a background check. And there'll be an orientation, which right now is mostly happening virtually, and then you'll sign an enrollment agreement. How much you get paid per hour really varies by the county. It mostly is around minimum wage, but some counties that can be higher or lower. A couple of other considerations: if you do get signed up as the paid provider for the person you're caring for, there may be a share of cost. So depending on their income, if they have a share of cost through Medi-Cal, it's kind of like a deductible, how much they have to pay each month before Medi-Cal will contribute. They may be paying that share of costs to you. So some people will see a share of cost as a detriment to receiving in-home support services and you as the family caregiver getting paid, but it may not be. If you live in the same household and they're paying that share of cost to you, it may still be doable for you. There are some other benefits that in-home support services providers receive that you as a caregiver could potentially receive, and one of them might be health insurance. So depending on how many hours a month of care you provide, you might be eligible for health insurance. There are some tax considerations. This is taxable income. There are some caregivers, depending on your relationship to the person you're caring for, that you may not be paying into Social Security though. And that can affect what your long-term retirement and Social Security is. So if you're thinking about getting paid as the provider under in-home support services, really encourage you to talk to a tax professional, figure out what that actually means for your taxes long-term. So a couple other programs I want to talk about if we go to the next slide. One of them is if you are caregiving for a veteran. The VA has a program called Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers. This program initially was only available for caregivers of veterans who served after 9/11. Just last month, in October of 2020, they expanded it to caregivers of veterans who served prior to May 7th, 1975. So this includes our Vietnam era, Korea, and World War II era veterans. It provides a monthly stipend for family caregivers. So veterans have to have been injured or incurred an illness during the time of their service, and they have to be 70% service connected. And if that's not a term that you're familiar with, then that would be something to check in with your VA about, and they can tell you whether your veteran meets that service criteria or not. And then they need to require personal care. You and the veteran would apply together for this, and then they would determine how much your monthly stipend would be based on the level of care that they require. There are some additional benefits, again, that a caregiver might be eligible for, including healthcare, mental health counseling, and additional respite. So there are a couple of other programs that I want to mention on the next slide that are a little less common for caregivers. And one of them is a program called Veteran Directed Care. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, sorry, we're back on. All right, so veteran directed care, very limited to your VA, whether it's even a possibility for you. It works very similar to import services. There is also aidance, which is a pension through the VA. It does not pay the caregiver directly, but does increase the financial benefits that a veteran may receive through the VA. So it can be an option to help increase that monthly income that you have available. And then personal care agreements are a legal document that you might complete with the person you're caring for, and it allows them to pay you for care. And this can help reduce family conflict, and it also might help demonstrate that the money they are paying you is not a gift, and that can make a difference when you're looking at potentially needing Medi-Cal down the road. But if this is something that you want to do, then you really want to talk to an attorney. And then in very rare instances, some long-term care insurance policies will allow that family caregiver to get paid. So if you do have a long-term care insurance policy, that's something that you may want to look into. So just some options for you. Again, not all of them are super common. If you look at the next slide, there are some resources when these slides are sent out to everybody that provide links to more information, but really encourage you to reach out to your local Caregiver Resource Center and they can provide you with more information. And with that, I'll turn it back to Martha.
Thank you, Christina, for that valuable information. If you live in the Bay Area, be sure to connect with the team at the Bay Area CRC. As we wrap up our first segment, we would like to share a few other organizations that support family caregivers. Please enjoy this panel with AARP, 211, and Valley Caregiver Resource Center, moderated by Jenny Peterson from the LA CRC.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to introduce our three panelists who will be sharing amazing resources available to our family caregivers. From 211, we have Maribel Marin. As a representative of AARP, we have Claudia Ellano. And speaking about the CRC resources, we have Susana Rodriguez from the Valley Caregiver Resource Center. Thank you all for joining us today. Now, to get started, I'd love for each of you to share a little bit about your organization. Maribel, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit more about 211 and who you support.
Thank you. Thank you. 211 is a free number that people can call 24/7. We serve the entire county of Los Angeles, so any resident of LA can dial 211 on their phone, cell phone, home phone, and also they can chat with us on our website through 211la.org. We are a 24-hour multilingual hotline that provides information and referral to residents of all ages and in all kinds of situations. We answer about close to 500,000 calls this year already, and I'm sorry, it's over 500,000 calls already this year, helping people with, COVID questions and also questions regarding basic needs. So we are really able to provide information on 50,000 different services and programs that serve the residents of Los Angeles. And we maintain a database that allows our agents to provide this information over the phone, to text it to people, to email it, and also you can self-serve on our website. There are lots of free programs. The main one that we are talking about today is the Ayudando a Quien Ayuda, which is the caregiver program that we're doing in partnership with AARP and the USC Family Caregiver Support Center. We are the county's elder abuse hotline, and also we answer the Area Agency on Aging hotline, and we're a member of the Aging Disability Resource Center. So on top of all of the caregiver programs that are associated with that, we can also just help with general information.
Great, thank you for that. Now over to you, Claudia. What does your organization do, and how do you support caregivers?
Great. Good afternoon. AARP is the largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization for persons over 50. And AARP focuses on health security, financial stability, and having personal fulfillment in later years. They also have a very strong interest in supporting family caregivers. On the AARP.org website, there is a whole section dedicated to caregiving. While AARP does not provide direct services, there is a lot of information for planning, for locating your resources, and for getting support on that website. Also on that website, you'll find linked resource guides for LA County, San Diego, San Francisco, and I believe there will be some new ones coming for more of the state in the future. There's also a booklet called Prepare to Care, which is a great guide for family care to begin to look at the needs of their loved one, assess what those needs are, how to have those conversations, identify resources, and also tools for medication management and other things that will support caregivers.
Great, Claudia. Now over to you, Susana. How does Valley Caregiver Resource Center work?
Thank you, Jenny. And here again, honoring our family caregivers this month, we are here to provide information on Valley Caregiver Resource Center, which is part of the 11 nonprofit California Caregiver Resource Centers throughout our state. We provide services for family caregivers that are caregiving for a loved one over the age of 18 with a chronic, debilitating condition like the Alzheimer type, other related dementias, vascular dementia, Parkinson's, Huntington, MS, traumatic brain injury. If you are caregiving for a loved one with those chronic conditions, you definitely qualify for our program, but also we do provide services for caregivers who are caregiving for a loved one over the age of 18 who may need some additional assistance.
Thank you, Susana. Now, let's talk about what is the best way for people to reach each of your organizations for resources. Maribel, why don't you start us off?
Okay, thank you. Certainly, 211 is a simple 3-digit number to remember, so it's just really 211. And we also, have a way to communicate with us on our website through chat, or you can text us at 52211. And again, we're multilingual and 24/7. So any of those methods will allow you to communicate with us in all of the languages.
Thank you, Maribel. And how about you, Claudia? How do people reach AARP for resources?
All right. The website, as I mentioned, is excellent, and it's tailored to California. And that website is aarp.org, and you would just click on caregiving, and you will find a whole array of materials there. For those who have computers, don't enjoy being a computer, is a caregiver line at 877-333-5885. I had to look at my notes there, excuse me. So that is 877-333-5885. And while we do not provide direct services, it's a good place for those who are just trying to figure out where to start getting services and don't know where their CRC don't have a wonderful 211 in their community. The AARP helpline would be a good starting point.
Perfect. Thank you, Claudia. And how about you, Susana? How do people reach Valley Caregivers Resource Center?
Yes, so here, if you are in caregiving for a loved one, we can definitely provide you with information, counseling services, respite care, education, and some additional information to help you in your caregiving journey. You can call us at 1-800-541-8614, or you can also visit our website at www.valleycrc.org. Or if you're here throughout our various counties, you can also visit our California Caregiver Resource Center website and find a local county caregiver resource center.
Great. Now, let's move on to our next question. What would you give to new family caregivers? Mary, let's start with you. What advice would you give to new family caregivers?
Thank you, Jenny. I think, caregiving often comes to families before they're prepared. It might come to them very suddenly. Somebody has an illness or something happens and they suddenly find themselves the person who's in charge. And at that point, I think the best thing is to call 211 or to call AARP or even the Caregiver Center, because there are lots of organizations that can help you with preparing and planning and taking the steps needed, and especially during this COVID environment, you need to get some guidance. If you start with 211, we would very likely connect you to an area agency on aging. We might assess you for, other supports that you might be eligible for, including the Ayudando a quien ayuda. And there are, definitely partners in the Aging Disability Resource Center that can help, whether it's an independent living center or whether it's one of our other partners like Wise and Healthy Aging or Partners in Care related to health situations. I think, it's always best to plan ahead, and if you can see your family members getting to a point where care may be needed, it's important to reach out early. And then if you are already in a caregiver situation and maybe feeling overwhelmed, I think it really is important to reach out to be involved in support groups and to understand what kind of self-care is available, because you have to be healthy and well yourself. And I think that a lot of people, find that it's very isolating to be a caregiver, and especially when somebody needs care all the time. And so it's important for the caregiver to consider plans and scheduling time for themselves. and to make sure that they are able to maintain that work-life balance, because it's very difficult, especially if you're also working, to be a caregiver, and to know that not all caregiving is the same, and there are resources out there to help you where maybe you need more additional supports than you're able to provide yourself or that your family is able to provide. But
those are all great points, Maribel. Thank you.
Reach out.
Claudia, yes, exactly. Claudia, what advice would you give to new family caregivers?
Hello?
Yes, Claudia. What advice would you give to new family caregivers?
Okay, I seem to have lost my connection there for a bit. So what I would say is I heard a little bit from on 211 there, and I would say yes, being prepared and reaching out is important. But it's always about being prepared and planning ahead, because you never know when caregiving will strike. So I would say planning ahead, knowing where the services are, having those conversations early are really important. Another tip as well, say you can use help, because sometimes caregiving, we don't say we need help. I can do it. Nobody else needs to be involved. But saying yes to offers so that you can take some breaks for yourself is very important, and something that caregivers should really think about doing and reach out to others. I know in my days as a CRC director, what I would often hear is that individuals would call up care, and the question is, I'm here a mom and I don't know. So overwhelmed, not even knowing to ask the question or what the question is. So I would encourage a new caregiver to just make the call and let the experts at these organizations guide you through where to go and finding the questions you need to ask and get the answers. Just reach out.
Great. And over to you, Susana. What advice would you give?
I would definitely say to the family caregiver that is now new in this caregiving journey to be connected. Here at Valley Caregiver Resource Center, we have a wonderful caring team of family consultants that can help you navigate this journey of what resources, those questions that sometimes we don't even know what to ask. We don't even know, because this is a new role. We started off today's session looking at, I'm my mother's daughter. But what does that mean now that this is changing, and identifying what that role looks like and how this is changing and how it's affecting my family, the person I'm caregiving for, sometimes could be very overwhelming questions. So being able to have someone that you can connect with and help you and guide you through those steps. Oftentimes we start that seeking, we don't know where to go. So I would definitely say be connected to a caregiver resource center. And two, it's not a failure. Oftentimes in the beginning stages, there's some denial of what's going on. And I would want to say you are as caring and loving as you continue in this journey of caregiving, but there is additional support. And one question I often ask, even in the beginning stages of caregiving, is what happens to your family member if something happens to you? And those are all sometimes questions we put off, and it's not until a crisis that we want to wait. And sometimes caregiving does come in a crisis. So just knowing that there's this support today to help you with those steps that are needed, both for your loved one, but especially for you. And it's not selfish to take care.
You're so right, Susana. That is a lovely message. Thank you, three ladies, for being with us today. And that's all we have time for. We'll go back to you, Martha. Thank you.
Thank you.
What fantastic resources. Thank you, AARP and 211, for joining us and sharing more about your organizations. In our next segment, we'll discuss how to access the information and resources you'll need as a caregiver. And we'd love to hear what resources you have utilized. Share in the comments below so that your fellow caregivers can learn. This is a great opportunity to exchange resources that you've found most valuable. Joining us now from Southern Caregiver Resource Center is Jessica Romero. She'll discuss how caregivers can use technology to access education and support from the CRCs.
Thank you, Marta. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Romero. I am Community Educator for Southern Caregiver Resource Center. I am grateful for the opportunity to share with you all today wonderful caregiver resources available for you online. My goal is to help you access these free tools and help you navigate to what is available through the Caregiver Resource Centers. Can we go to the next slide, please? Before I get started, I want to talk to you about our new normal. More than ever, we are seeking for resources for daily living activities, things we can do using online or the web. We've transitioned into a new digital lifestyle of, for instance, working from home like most of us are, and doing social distance learning. A lot of us are parents and we're having the kiddos at home while they're going through school. We're doing caregiving responsibilities and we're also working full time. We've all had to adapt to the new normal due to the pandemic, and we had to learn new ways and skills of how to manage our caregiving responsibilities. Digital technology offers practical solutions for caregivers seeking to solve problems, learn a new skill, and connect with others. I like to look at technology as my network of support that helps me access useful information appropriate and unique to my needs and my culture and my language. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. There's a lot of services we can access from the press of a button from our cell phone or a computer, right? We can find all these services online through the Caregiver Resource Center. The great thing about virtual services is that we can find things that are specific to our needs. For example, with the stay-home order, we are spending more time at home, and it feels like we just don't get a break sometimes, right? Because we're running around, we're cooking, we're helping the kids with school, and then we're also caring for our loved one, helping them get through the day easily and healthy. For example, we want to make sure that we identify some of the activities that we can do for self-care. Our past speakers were talking about the importance of self-care, especially during this time, to make sure we have time for relaxation. So we invite you to access virtual services. Try something that makes you feel well, something that makes you feel good, that relaxes you. For me, for instance, is trying new recipes. I even tried yoga once. It wasn't for me. I actually liked meditation instead of yoga, but it was just one of those things that I had to look for online to try something that it was gonna calm me down, take a break, and pause. These virtual services are a great way to connect and expand our network of support while we're staying healthy at home. Next slide. One of the tools that you can use online is the iCare portal. The iCare portal is a wonderful educational tool that you can find at our website and through our different social media channels. One of the things that we implement at the iCare portal is our Caregiver Corner. Our Caregiver Corner are very quick 1-minute tip videos that talk about the important topics relevant to caregivers. So we have different conversations like, what is Alzheimer's? What are the legal documents I need to be in place for my caregiving needs? All these different relevant topics to caregiving. What is great about it is that it's only 1 minute long tip video. So you can watch these videos while you're in a line to pay your groceries or while you're waiting for your prescriptions to be filled. Here's an example of our Caregiver Corners.
My name is Marta Rañón, Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs for Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Welcome back to Caregiving Corner. I recently did a talk about long-term care and realized that there are a lot of misconceptions. That is why today I want to talk to you about the myths of long-term care, and I'm going to do that into 2 segments. So let's get started with part 1. Myth number 1, it won't happen to me.
As you can see, these are all important tips and topics that we need to be learning and updating to see what else is out there. So you can always access this 1-minute tip videos and explore more on caregiving needs, responsibilities, conditions, all the things we do on a daily basis. Another great tool within the iCare portal is our podcast, Let's Talk Caregiving. Here we discuss various topics related to caregiving, and we also invite experts in different subject matters related to caregiving to make sure that we're updated on what's happening within our community. Here's an example of our podcast.
Welcome everyone to another edition of SCRC's Let's Talk Caregiving. I'm your host, Roberto Velasquez, President and CEO of Southern Caregiver Resource Center, and I'm here as always with my co-host, Marta Rañón, our Executive Vice President.
Hey, Roberto.
We want to talk about family caregivers who are balancing caring for the elderly and children in their home.
So as you can see, these podcasts are very easy to hear. It's a free podcast that we can listen to while we're driving. They're conversations that we want to be involved with. You can listen to them with your family, by yourself, and just expose that what you're doing, we are working towards making you feel supported and helping you through this. So that's why the podcast is very important to just be part of it, and we invite you to listen to it. In addition to the podcast and our caregiver corners, you can also access pre-recorded live stream classes in different languages. We recently just did a workshop in collaboration with a nutritionist. This workshop was in Spanish, and we had a really great attendance. It's still available for you to watch. And this nutritionist actually talked about maintaining a healthy diet while staying at home. So these kinds of topics, we want to make sure that they're out there for you. And again, just by searching our care portal on our website or our different social media channels, you can have access to this wonderful information. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as I was talking about the iCare portal being through our social media channels, I want to invite you, if you're not already following us, to just follow our social media channels, because this is where we post and we share with you what is happening through the CRCs. You can find wonderful caregiver information and stay up to date in services with the CRCs and within the community. There are different private caregiver chat groups that help family caregivers feel connected with other caregivers. These are not support groups, but they are a way of finding support and empowerment with other caregivers that are going through similar situations. During these times of pandemic, it is important to have community engagement, and social media is really a great way for you to be engaged with your friends and family. For example, I care for my grandmother who's 82 and she has a heart condition. And due to COVID, we haven't visited her since March, I think. However, we've managed to show her and teach her how to use the different social media platforms so that we could still get connected. So we do different video calls, we do different activities like cooking together, just to make sure that we are connected and joined and loving each other still, even though this pandemic has spread us apart physically, but not digitally. Next slide, please. I want to very quickly talk to you about our Care Navigator, which is an online portal that you can access through the CRC Caregiving Resources. It's very practical to use. I know at the beginning, Martha kind of showed us how to work, that you can just type in your zip code and you can be directed to the CRC closest to you. What you can also do is it can help you create a portal. You just create an account, access caregiver resources and information based off your area. It is simple and it's very user-friendly tool that can help families navigate complexities of the caregiving journey. It is caregiver recommended, and it has great resources and is an additional support for you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. As you heard from other speakers today, our focus for all the California Resource Center is just to bring a useful platform to you to support you in your caregiving journey. We are grateful and excited to continue to develop more resources for you online. Hopefully soon we will go back to normal and we can actually help you face to face. But for now, this is a wonderful way of still helping you and supporting you. I want to invite you to stay connected with us and know that we see you, we hear you, and we're here to support you. Thank you.
There are so many wonderful resources available to caregivers. The CRCs are here to help you navigate them. If you haven't already, be sure to connect with your local CRC to learn more about the services and resources available. Let's check the comments and see what resources you all have shared. So I have a comment here from Donna Benton. And she says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So getting help can help you be a less stressed caregiver. That is so true, Donna. Thank you for sharing that. We have another comment. And this one is from Roberto Velasquez, and he says, go to CRC's iCare portal at www.scrc.care, and you can find a lot of information there, and it's actually a lot of what Jessica just shared with us. Dave Beck just said that local Kaiser weekly caregiver group meetings on Zoom are available for everyone. Local caregiver providers for caregivers have provided respite for people to go shopping, appointments, quiet walks, and anything else you might need. That is such a great resource. Thank you so much for sharing. And we really appreciate your feedback. One of the most valuable resources that CRCs provide is respite care. Here to talk about what respite care is and how to access it is Michelle Nevins, Executive Director of Del Oro CRC, and John Balutz, Executive Director of the Del Mar CRCs. Welcome, Michelle and John. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Martha.
Michelle, I wanted to ask you, what exactly is respite care? What does it mean?
Absolutely. It's actually just a fancy word used to describe taking a break from your caregiving situation. And respite care can be provided by friends and family. I think a lot of caregivers forget that they can actually solicit help from their support network, but it's also provided by more formal resources such as adult daycare programs, in-home care, or care at an assisted living facility for a short-term stay.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And John, how does it work? How is it typically paid for?
Generally, there are multiple ways that can happen. At our Caregiver Resource Center, you have two main options. One is you can identify somebody you know who would be a good caregiver for your loved one, and then make arrangements with the Caregiver Resource Center once you're a client and have gone through the assessments there. And then we'll set up an arrangement to reimburse you for the cost of that so that you can have the person you want for your loved one providing care. The other way we do it is there are organizations, whether they're adult daycare or whether they're in-home care, private companies that will come in and provide paid caregivers to help you out. And in those cases, we'll have a contract and arrangement with those groups, and then we'll pay that directly to provide you with the care. So we want to provide as many options. This is about being directed by the consumer, by the caregiver. You know what's best for your family, and we'll do our best to provide that service for you with the person and the group you want.
So true. Michelle, how would a caregiver connect with respite care?
Absolutely. Inquiring with their local caregiver resource center is the best way we can provide resources through our individual sites, and also provide community resources that might be available through other organizations as well to maximize their experience. So directly calling us and contacting us is the best way to get started, whether that's over the internet, telephone, through a CareNav portal, or of course, just sending us an email.
And John, one last question. What are some of the benefits of receiving respite care?
Respite care can benefit different families in different ways. I'll give you a few examples. You may need a break because you are giving 24/7 care and you're doing it by yourself. And now in the time of COVID, it creates extra challenges, but you need a break more than ever. Perhaps you have your own medical condition and you need to have a few days to deal with that. Well, you need a break from your caregiving, and we can come in and try to help you with that. Or maybe you need to get some education about how to be a better caregiver as your loved one's condition progresses. And that's another way maybe we can give you a break so that you can do that. But anywhere from going out and getting a haircut to taking care of your own medical things and everything else that's out there, as a caregiver, you got to take care of yourself. You've got to make sure that you're in a good place because you're important just like the loved one you're caring for is.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining us and sharing such vital information. One of the most important activities that CRCs do for family caregivers is advocacy. As an association, we connect with local state representatives to offer a better sense of the type of services provided to their constituents and thus garner the support for these vital programs. To share an introduction to policies that impact family caregivers is Dr. Donna Benton, Executive Director of the LA CRC.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a really good day at this conference. I know that there's a lot of great information, and I'm so glad to be able to bring you a little information about how caregivers can advocate for themselves. And the reason I call this one, It's Everyone's Business, is because caregiving is across generations. It's a lifespan activity. Next slide. So just to, make sure we're all thinking of, around caregiving the same way, I want to first start out by saying, we always say you're not alone. And when we say you're not alone, we're talking about 1 out of every 4 households in America is part of a caregiving experience. And so that's really about, and who are people being taken care of? About 53.5 million people are caring for somebody either who's a child or an adult, and the majority of those are caring for somebody who's probably an older adult, maybe over the age of 50 with some type of cognitive or physical disability. And because we live longer, many of the caregivers are maybe caring for somebody who is older, and they themselves may be over the age of 70. And not surprisingly, most caregivers are women. And while these numbers of caregivers do change depending on which ethnic or cultural group you belong to, caregiving is a universal activity. Next slide. So the other thing I think that's important and why I think of this as a lifespan and something we can do as advocates is because it touches everyone, and many of us are working. So that means that when we're working, sometimes we need to have policies in place that help us as workers and for those who are retired, but as we work, so that it makes it easier for us to juggle all of our responsibilities. Next slide. And really, we have a lot of responsibilities, and caregiving also entails, it's not just the person who's being cared for who is spending money from their health insurance, but also we as caregivers contribute to the economy about $470 billion a year if we were to be paid. But on top of that, each caregiver on average may spend up to $7,000 in out-of-pocket expenses for things like food, medication, co-pays. You might be helping somebody with paying for some of their bills or special diets or equipment that you're buying. So we do all kinds of things that are not covered under normal medical insurance. Next slide. And as I said, every generation is part of caregiving. And sometimes, we don't remember what generation we are. So I put down the different names of generations because we always talk about Gen X's or millennials. So on this slide, you can see what year you were born. I'm not going to ask you, but then you can tell what generation you are in. But as you can see, generation, what's called baby boomers, right now, they're the largest percentage of caregivers. But right behind that are people who are born as Gen Xers, which are between 1965 and 1976. So many people are retired, but as I said, many are working. And right there, you see 23% of some of our millennials or Gen Y, people who are born 1977 to 1995. So in their 20s are actually family caregivers, and then many younger people too. Next slide. And one of the things that's important for understanding why we want to do advocacy is because, you know what? There are a lot of us as caregivers, but our support is shrinking. Maybe before families were larger, families lived closer together, and we also weren't caring for people with such complicated care needs. So that right now with the shrinking family, complicated needs, they're really in the long, like 20, 30 years from now, we aren't really going to have as many unpaid family caregivers. So we need to be able to advocate now for help, both for ourselves as unpaid caregivers, but to have some other outside supports and services that make caregiving easier for us. So really, what does that mean for us? Well, that means that it's important to understand what actions you can take by understanding the questions that you can ask about what are the policies here and in California, but in any state, if you happen to be somewhere else listening to this webinar, what kind of workplace policies are out there for you? Do you have paid family leave? Do you have paid sick days? What are the policies around flexibilities in your workplace? So asking these questions can tell you where you might want to see action taken. Do you have any, some people don't even have a few paid sick days. And so what happens, many times you have to choose between taking time off unpaid to care for a person or leaving that person without any kind of care. And that's a difficult choice that really we should not have to make in our lives. Do we know what kind of funding is out there? Because without funding, you can't have flexibility. And so if we want funding and flexibility, you have to understand what are the programs that are in your community and how are they funded? And are they given enough funds? Do you have enough funds for caregiver support services? Do we have enough funds for adult daycare or for alternate programs in the community? Are there enough funds so that we can educate the people who are supporting us, like our doctors and nurses and social workers, so that they understand what you need as a caregiver, so that they have the time to talk to you about your caregiving needs and that the caregiving and medical needs of the person you're caring for. If the doctors or the nurses or the social workers don't get paid to spend time in talking with you, then you know how rushed it feels and you don't get the information you need and they aren't able to give you that information. Also, are there programs and environments in the community that really make it easier for you as a family caregiver to provide care? I always think of how much easier it is for us to, if somebody happens to be using a walker or a wheelchair, that we have curb cuts. And that was advocated for the disability community. But you know what? Not just people with walkers and wheelchairs use it, but families who have strollers. And some of us when we just don't feel like stepping up on the curb. So there are ways to make our environment and the services around us more caregiver friendly. What's happened since we've had COVID? For many caregivers, it was a struggle to get somebody to take somebody to a doctor's office. Now you can have telemedicine, but telemedicine is good. But if we don't have the right infrastructure for broadband or being able to access the services through the internet, then if it's too slow, then telemedicine isn't going to work for us. And so we have to look and work with legislators to make sure that we have good broadband access, that we have long-term care services and support, that we have funding for caregiver services and funding for adult daycare services, and flexible workplace policies that allow you to take time off, or policies that make sure that you are discriminated against because you are a family caregiver. So in order to take action, you have to think, it's really good to think about when you say to yourself, I wish this was easier for me. What's your wish? And that's where you can begin to take action, because you know what the gaps are, and that's how you can start your discussions with your elected officials, with your city planners, with your neighborhood council, all the places where you can begin to have these discussions. And of course, you can reach out to organizations like the Caregiver Resource Centers, Alzheimer's Association, MS, Stroke, and they always have advocates there that you can speak to, tell them what you're seeing, and maybe become that voice for you and the millions of other family caregivers like you. So I hope I've inspired you to take action, to talk to people and think about your needs and let people know what you need. Thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you, Dr. Benton. If you live in Los Angeles, be sure to connect with the LA CRC. We've heard about so many amazing resources in this segment. One of the most crucial resources as a caregiver is finding time for self-care. Our last segment will focus on how to make sure you take care of yourself so that you can continue to be an amazing caregiver. To get us started, please welcome Tavio McAllister, a Zumba instructor from the Sacramento area, who's going to tell us all about Zumba.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope you've had a wonderful Thursday. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to learn a little bit more about Zumba. My name is Tavio, and I am a Zumba instructor here in Sacramento. I have been an instructor for 6 years, and I am so passionate about Zumba and what it can do. So, as you know, in what you do, self-care is so critical. It's so important. And Zumba is a way for you to disconnect from those stressors in life and get lost for an hour in music and dance and community. So, what I say, Zumba has 3 pillars: music, dance, and community. Now, I always say that Zumba is one of the cheapest vacations that you can take. Why? Because with Zumba, you get to travel around the world getting lost in music from other countries. In a Zumba class, you'll hear music from countries like Puerto Rico, Colombia, Brazil, Jamaica, India. So if you're someone who loves music, if you're someone who wants to hear something a little different from the top 40 that we might hear day to day, then Zumba is for you. Zumba is also dance. So Zumba is a dance fitness program, but it doesn't require you to be a professional dancer. So please don't shy away if you feel like you're not a good dancer or you're not professional, because the moves in a Zumba fitness class are designed to be easy and accessible for all. So, if you're someone that likes to move, if you're someone who loves to dance in your kitchen, dance in the shower, dance in your car, and just move, Zumba is likely for you. Zumba also fosters an incredible sense of community. I have met some of my very best friends throughout Zumba over the years, friends that I am still friends with today and that I've grown so incredibly close to. People who I likely wouldn't have crossed paths with in my day-to-day life, but now we have such an incredible bond, and it all started with Zumba. There's something about getting together with people and moving and dancing that just fosters a sense of togetherness. And that's what Zumba can offer to you. Zumba has been around for nearly 20 years now, and that alone is a testament to how powerful of a format it is. As we know, fitness formats come and go. There are a lot of fads out there, but Zumba has only grown in popularity over the years, and I would love for you to be a part of this amazing community. Last holiday season, I actually received a gift from my Zumba students, and it was one of the most amazing gifts I've ever received. They presented me with this box, and in this box, they all wrote notes to me about what Zumba means to them and how it's changed their life. And I wanted to read a few of those quotes to you, just so you can hear from other people in this area what they think of Zumba and how it's impacted them. So, one student said, "As I've said before, I'm so very grateful for your presence in my life. To some, Zumba is just a fun workout to do, but to the rest of us, it's a community of friends who can let off the day's steam and dance with. You've been the catalyst for that community to come together. I've met so many wonderful people that I otherwise would likely not have crossed paths with, and I'm so glad to be a part of our amazing little crew of Zumba friends." Carmen said, "I always say that Zumba is my happy place, but it's never been more true than now. No matter what's going on in the world and how much I want to think and dwell on things, it all just melts away after that first 5 minutes of class. It's amazing what a kind, caring, inviting, and uplifting group of friends your class has created. Friends who encourage me and won't let me quit class when I'm not feeling well. My Zumba friends are my family away from home, and it's because of the environment you've created." Susan said, "In your classes, you create an environment which makes students feel comfortable and valued. You notice and interact with everyone. Your warmth sets an atmosphere where many of us meet each other and form lasting friendships. And all of us know you work hard to create dynamic, energetic, and fun classes." And that was from Susan. It's particularly close to my heart as a note because Susan passed away from cancer. And I'll never forget seeing her for the very last time in her home by her bedside. And she said that Zumba and getting back to our classes was the very thing that kept her going and made her want to get better. And lastly, someone who was anonymous wrote, "Zumba saved my life." So, no matter what age you are, I have students who are 16 years old. I have students who are 80, 85 years old. Age does not matter. Dance ability does not matter. You will feel safe and you will feel at home and you will just get lost for an hour dancing around the world. And in the meantime, you burn some calories and improve your mental and physical health. So my gift to you is complimentary Zumba classes. I would love to see many of you in my virtual Zoom classes. I have set up an opportunity for you to take up to 5 sessions with me for free. There's a Google form that you'll fill out. You'll express interest in 1 or more classes, and I'll follow up with the Zoom meeting details for that particular class. You'll also receive an email tomorrow with that link, so please access it, fill it out. I would love to hear from you. And of course, you can always reach out to me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, if you have any questions at all about Zumba and our virtual Zumba classes. And as the world opens back up in the near future, feel free to join me in a live class at 24 Hour Fitness or join any other Zumba instructor in your local area at a gym or a dance studio. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to dance with you.
What a fun way to get a workout. Thank you, Tavio. We hope you take advantage of the opportunity to participate in a virtual Zumba class. As a reminder, You can get information about that here. Self-care looks different for each and every one of us. Let's hear from a caregiver from Passages CRC who uses Tai Chi as a form of self-care.
Hi everyone, I'm Marianne and I live in Chico, California, where I'm a client of Passages Mountain Caregiver Resource Center. My significant other had a hemorrhagic stroke almost 9 years ago that left him completely dependent, and I've been his caregiver ever since. Finding Passages in that first year of caregiving was a true blessing. They've given me many opportunities over the years for respite, education, relaxation, and fun. I love going to their annual retreat, which gives me a chance to relax and spend time with other caregivers who face the same challenges that I do. For self-care, I make time to walk with friends several times a week, and I find that when I get up early and have some quiet time for myself, that day goes much better. I especially love Tai Chi. It takes focus, and breathing through the gentle movements delivers oxygen to every part of my body, which gives me a wonderful sense of well-being. And by its nature, it takes my mind off the demands of caregiving. In my years as a caregiver, I've learned that it's okay to put myself first, to do things for myself that bring me clarity and peace, and that, as it turns out, I'm a much better caregiver when I do that.
Caregiving presents a variety of challenges and stressors. To share more about stress management, please welcome Amanda Hartree from Family Caregiver Alliance, Bay Area CRC.
Thanks, Martha. Good evening. My name is Amanda Hartree, and I'm a family consultant with Family Caregiver Alliance in the Bay Area. And I want to talk a little bit about caregiver stress and the importance of stress reduction. Caregiving and stress go hand in hand, and COVID has certainly created new stressors for caregivers and amplified existing ones. Next slide, please. Things like juggling multiple roles, working either from home or having to go to work during COVID are both stress-inducing, as are childcare, homeschooling, and of course, caregiving. Many people have lost income or their jobs simply due to the caregiving duties they have, but even now more have done so due to COVID, on top of costs of goods increasing. Challenging behaviors in small spaces are especially hard with dementia, and many people have faced a loss of help from adult day programs and in-home care. And certainly a lack of control and uncertainty is felt when caring for somebody with a chronic illness. COVID has certainly increased those feelings, as well as isolation. Being stuck at home might not be new, but now it's even harder for caregivers to see friends and family and their spiritual community. Next slide, please. Stress has a direct impact on caregivers' emotional and physical health. We know that 40 to 70% of caregivers experience symptoms of clinical depression, and 17 to 35% of caregivers report their health as fair to poor. And this is particularly true for elderly spousal caregivers who are experiencing mental or emotional strain. They have a 63% higher risk of dying than non-caregivers. Caregivers experience a diminished immune response, which leads to frequent infections and increased risk of cancers. They also suffer from slower wound healing and higher number visits to the ER. Caregivers report not having time or energy to see their doctor or to prepare healthy meals for themselves or exercise or even fill their own prescriptions. And older caregivers, people who make less money and those with limited support networks, report poorer psychological and physical health than caregivers who are younger and make more money and have better support networks. Next slide, please. We teach caregivers many ways to reduce their stress levels, including relaxation exercises. And we have many on our website in the Learning Center that you can try, and I have a link on this slide. Deep breathing works because it directly affects your automatic nervous system, which is split into two parts. So one part is the sympathetic nervous system, and that controls your fight or flight response, those feelings of stress and anxiety. And the other part is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that controls your rest and relax response. And this system is activated by deep breathing. And these two parts of your nervous system can't be turned on at the same time, which means if you activate one, the other one will be suppressed. So I'm going to play a deep breathing exercise for you now that's on our website, and I invite you all to try it. Remember that this is your time. You have nothing else to do right now except to be here. Okay, let's start.
Deep breathing. Breathing deeply. Put one hand on your stomach and the other on your chest if possible. Feel your breathing for a short time, noticing the rise and fall of your stomach. Breathe in. Inhale deeply through your nose. As you breathe in, the hand on your stomach should rise, and the one on your chest should move very little. Breathe out. Exhale through your mouth. Push out as much air as you can and feel your stomach tighten as it flattens. Again, the hand on your stomach should move, but your chest shouldn't move much. Be sure that you empty out all the air and then pause. Try to inhale to the count of 10. And then exhale to the count of 10. This helps to slow your breathing. Repeat this breathing for several minutes. If you're lying down, you can put a small book on your stomach and try to breathe so that it rises when you inhale and falls when you exhale. When you are ready, you can open your eyes.
Amazing tools. Thank you, Amanda. For our last presentation, we're joined by Brenda Birdwell from Coast CRC.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Has this been an amazing 2 hours that you've had to spend with the rest of your friends and colleagues? I just feel so lucky to be part of this experience. So I'm here to tell you that you, the caregivers, are the most important people in this room. You're the glue that's holding everything together, and that's why it's so important that you take care of yourself. Next slide, please. Self-care is different for every person. No one can tell you how to practice your own self-care. You get to be the boss of what self-care is going to be for you. And don't look at me and say, Brenda, don't put one more thing on my overly full plate that's falling on the floor, because I'm here to tell you that self-care has 0 calories. Unless you're my friends who say that self-care is brownies and beer, but that's a different conversation. I want to say to you that self-care is creating a space for yourself that you don't want to escape from. I'm going to repeat that. Self-care is creating a space for yourself that you don't want to escape from. Next slide, please. So the things that are on the slide behind me, I'm not going to talk about because they're there for you to process subliminally. You'll remember them later. But I am going to talk about what self-care is. Self-care is letting go. Self-care is letting go of the things that you have absolutely no control over. The grass is probably going to be green if it's not brown, and the sky's probably going to be blue if it's not gray. But if you spend so much of your energy thinking about and worrying about the things that you can't control, that's energy that you're already taking away from yourself, and your energy level is probably already being depleted. So I give you permission to let go of what you don't have control over and put that energy back in your already half-filled cup. Self-care is also an actionable action plan. How many of you have been through the evidence-based programs? You're in a class and you know at the end of class, you're going to have to say what your action plan is going to be for next week. I'm going to run a marathon and eat green vegetables for a week. By the second week, the instructor and your other classmates already know that's not going to be the case. So pick an action plan that you can actually succeed in and feel good about. I had a lady in class who used to be a master gardener. She had severe arthritis and was no longer able to garden. She was telling her daughter about the class she was taking. So the next time her daughter came for a visit, she brought a little 6-pack of plants and some pots and some potting soil. And the daughter potted the plants for her mother. The mother was able to still water the plants, so she could sit on her patio and enjoy the blooms and water the plants and enjoy the sense of accomplishment that she got from creating something that was useful for her. I had another lady in a support group who was so tired. She loved music, and she didn't even hear music anymore, even if it was playing in the background. And she would get jigsaw puzzles for her mother because her mother enjoyed the jigsaw puzzles. And so I said, how about if you got a jigsaw puzzle for yourself? I'm that geek who has a special table for my jigsaw pieces that has the little plates that you can put the different pieces based on color and size. I'm that person. So she was like, well, I didn't do the jigsaw puzzle for me. I did it for mom. So the next time the mom got out the jigsaw puzzle, she fully participated by finding her own pieces of the puzzle while she was actually listening to the music in the background. The next slide, please. One thing that is really important, and I hope if you don't take anything else away from everything that we've talked about today, is finding your happy place. You have to be able to identify where your happy place is. And again, you're in charge of this. No one can tell you where your happy place is. So maybe it's going and smelling the roses in your garden. Maybe it's pretending you're in Tahiti. It doesn't really matter. But you have to identify where your happy place is. And you have to know how to trigger yourself to go there. And you have to go there every day. So as we just did with a wonderful relaxation exercise, let's try that. Let's do that right now. Where is your happy place? Did you find it? Mine is anything that has anything to do with my dog. And I must say that I kind of take offense when my roommate reminds me that it's time for me to go to my happy place. Because it's okay for me to tell you that you need to go there, but I shouldn't. Oh, wait. We all need to go to our happy place. So my homework to you, not wanting to have anything else to have to deal with, is to promise me that you will find and go to your happy place. And you will find that if you do go there every day, it will make a huge difference. It will make it easier for you to get through the next hour or day or whatever it is. And I do hear people, when they first hear me talk about the happy place, they'll roll their eyes and say, oh, it's not kindergarten. And then I'll see that same person a couple of months later, and they'll say, you know what, Brenda? The happy place really saved me the other day. Next slide, please. I would also like to take this opportunity to make sure that you are aware of some seminars that are available on our website, the Coast Caregiver Resource Center website, right now. We had these 2 seminars specifically put together for our caregivers, and we're so happy to be able to give you the chance to take advantage of these opportunities as well. The first one, Have Your Own Back, Self-Care and Resilience for Caregivers, was put together for us by Jay Fields, and it has all kinds of wonderful information, including physiological triggers that you can become aware of. So, for example, if you find yourself starting to get upset or losing a little bit of control, you can remember, oh, this is what this feels like, and this is what this means, and this is how I can change the action that I was going to take before I remembered what I learned in this training. And then the other training, the Self-Care Imperative, Shining Your Light Without Burning Out, was put together for us by Denise Bissonnette. And what I've been talking about in the past few minutes, she has, I believe it's 4 different segments of so many different choices of ways that you can practice self-care. So if you think you don't know what that is or how to do it, I promise you, if you watch her seminars, you will definitely have a great idea of what self-care is for you. And then I would just like to leave you with a quote from Tia Walker. And Tia Walker said, "To care for those who once cared for us is one of the highest honors." And I would like to say that having the opportunity to work with loving, caring caregivers like yourselves, who are the most important people in the room, is the highest honor indeed. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your attention. Bless you, and go to your happy place. Thank you. Back to you, Martha.
Thank you, Brenda. Our Central Coast family caregivers are fortunate to have you in Coast CRC as a resource. We are so incredibly grateful that you have joined us for this event. We hope that you've learned about what it means to be a family caregiver and how to connect to the variety of resources available to you. The California Caregiver Resource Centers are here to help you by connecting you to the resources and support you may need during your caregiving journey. Please be sure to visit us at caregivercalifornia.org to connect with your local CRC. Thanks again so much for being here and have a great evening.